Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Card Advantage podcast. It is Saturday, June 11th, 2022 at 9:02 p.m. As always, I am joined by the often imitated but never duplicated Mr. Bunk. What's going on, buddy?
Man, duplicated. That'd be bad.
Yeah,
I'm good. How you doing?
We only got one of you. We don't need another one. One is enough for all of us to go around. I'm doing good.
Solo pod.
Oh, geez. Yeah. No. Well, we're working on updates. The solo pod may not need to happen, thankfully, but we'll see. Anything personal you want to discuss before we get started?
Uh-oh.
That was just more something. That was just more of a question than anything else.
No, nothing crazy.
All right.
All I've been focusing on is I've actually really been trying to get organized around here. Too many cards.
There you go. Well, Nationals coming up. You got to get those trade night cards set up for that.
I've been putting aside pieces that if I can't sell, they're coming with me in case I see something I really want.
We'll get you a Donkey Lover shirt that you can wear to Nationals. See if you can find any friends.
Yeah, but the kind of stuff I'm bringing to trade, it'd have to be a sick done piece for me to let that stuff go. I'd be looking for more of my other PCs.
Yeah, well, I know some of the nicer pieces that you have, and if you trade those for duns, I might physically stop you.
Well, right, I won't. That's the thing. I'll probably show up and not make a trade. But.
Yeah, I might physically stop you from doing that.
It won't happen.
Anyways, all right, moving right along. Sports Card Podcast Advantage. I don't even shit. That order was all out of whack. Sports Card Advantage Podcast Business. We picked a winner last week. Brian W. got his card. We gave him a Justin Herbert Select PSA 10 rookie, so he was super happy about that. So thank you, everybody, for...
Have it just mailed to him, or am I on the lookout for that?
No. It got mailed straight to him from eBay.
Nice job thinking by you, sir.
Yes, I figured it'd save us the shipping and everything just went straight out.
Very nice. Congratulations, Brian.
Yep, congratulations, Brian. We got a couple of other things going on. For those of you that listened to the interview with Jason Kuntz from OTIA a couple weeks ago, he also was involved with ISA grading, was super kind to offer up 5 free spots to listeners of the podcast. All you have to do is send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com. We'll pick a winner here sometime in the next week or two. We have some entries already in, but definitely still very good chance to win. And then also gave us a coupon code for the next 3 months, basically 90 days. It'll be good for June, July, August. Use code SCAV on ISA Grading's website, and you will get a 5-day turnaround on a $20 grade. If you have low-end stuff, or if you have things that you're potentially looking to send to PSA, and you want somebody to take an initial look at it, spending $20 with ISA and letting Jason's team and Jason, if it's a bigger piece, take a look at it and give you a free, $20 evaluation and getting it back in 5 days. Not the end of the world. We're not sponsored by or paid by or anything else from ISA. Just him doing something nice for the listeners of the podcast. And then I think that's about it. One other thing we're going to throw at you. We're going to pick another couple of winners, probably 3 to 5 winners of some free t-shirts. We're getting some merch made up for the podcast. Going to be some things that say Sports Card Advantage on them, and then just some funny hobby t-shirts that we're going to get made up. So we're looking for people to do some quality control and testing of the merchandise. So we'll give, let's say, 5 shirts away. Once again, if you want to be entered in for that, send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com, or go to Instagram and Twitter and just drop us a comment on this week's post for the episode. We have the infamous Nat Turner interview this week. Nat was super gracious to give us 55 minutes of his time, and we took full advantage of it. I will credit Bunk with asking the most well-worded, eloquent question that he has asked in the history of this podcast. So it's fantastic, and we'll get to that in a few.
Are you
but we
mocking me?
No, I'm not at all. I literally almost stopped in the interview, and I'm like, that is the most well-worded question I've ever heard you ask in our entire history together. It was, one of the questions that you asked about the set registry, and I was like taken aback for a second. I was like, holy shit, that was actually like well-worded and smart. I mean, it was.
Look, I'm surprised too.
Yes, if you want, ask our friend from Minnesota. I made a comment to him after the interview. I was like, this was the most well-worded question Bunk's ever asked. So, a lot to live up to. But yes, 55 minutes of Nat. We talk everything from his collection, collecting in general, set registry, what's coming up with set registry, where grading is going as far as pricing with PSA grading tips, where he sees the hobby. It's literally 55 minutes. Fantastic opportunity that we had to talk to him. And we'll get to that in probably about 15 minutes. But first and foremost, there is a topic swirling around the hobby right now that PSA, I guess you could use the word cracking down on giving out 10s, getting stricter, however you want to word it. There's a few people, influencers, whatever, that have posted things talking about their own personal experiences, and you're just seeming to read that same theme. We've had similar experiences. We submitted 15 cards recently. There was a few in there that we thought were guaranteed 10s, came back 9s. We had a card that we also recently submitted that was a BGS 8, came back PSA 7. So it definitely looks that way. But what are you seeing, on your side, and what are your thoughts?
Well, up until recently, there was just these periods. People talk about, okay, we're in a couple month period of them being lenient. They've been cracking down a little bit. It would just kind of go like a little bit of a very slow roller coaster up and down. So I don't know if we're entering one of those, but it's been pretty prominent. I mean, usually you'll see this kind of stuff in the blowout forums and that sort of stuff. You'll just read little anecdotes there. But lately, I all over timelines, and I'm seeing people, sharing videos and stuff like that. It looks like it's pretty significant. And it's happening a lot more than usual for the amount of volume I'm seeing of people complaining. I mean, there's always people complaining. We're complaining.
Yeah.
It just seems a little excessive. And some of the examples we've seen have been, pretty big swings in some of the grades too.
Yeah.
Especially on the cracked pieces.
Yeah. So there is, there's two examples that I'll pull I'll pull out for this. One of the hosts of the Luca Tiger LeBron podcast, Cage, he's pretty prominent as far as podcast hosts are concerned, and those guys do a daily podcast, which hats off to them. I could not do that and come up with something to talk to you about every day. But anyway, he said that he had a recent 150 card submission, and his typical gem rate that when he submits cards that he evaluates is like 70 to 80% gems. And on this go round, out of his 150 cards that he submitted, he got 7 10s. And everything else was like 8s and 9s.
Yeah, it's not like he went from 125 out of 150 gem to 105 or 95. He went to, what did you tell me?
7.
That's somebody's doing something different in the grading world.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's period. That just I can't blame it on anything else except something changed.
And then there's another story floating around of a guy that submitted, also a prominent person in sports card world, educated on grading, submitted a Herbert card that he thought was guaranteed 10. Card came back PSA 4. And they looked at it and, they're like, there's no way this is a 4. So they cracked it, resubbed it, came back PSA 10. I mean, the PSA 4, obviously is a drastic thing that happens. And I don't think you're going to see that often at all. But, it's just crazy as far as just what's going on. And it's one of the things that we talked to Nat about as far as what you have for recourse if you get a grade back, whether or not you crack it and resubmit it, or whether or not you resend it in for evaluation, through PSA. PSA does have a service. He also says that, they will provide you feedback on why it got the grade that it got, provided you don't resend in like 150 cards. If you're sending in a couple cards that you disagree with, you will get the feedback, and they'll use sticky notes and point out, where the defects are.
Well, my main issue with that scenario is, as you'll learn from that later, someone else confirmed that 4. One grader gave it a 4, someone else confirmed it as a 4, and then it moved along.
Yeah.
And then it went back and got a 10. So that's a little concerning.
We also potentially got the PC answer that he has to give that, yes, everything gets looked at by multiple people, but you never know when they got backlogged or, whatever it was, that it was just all hands on deck, get these things through as fast as possible. Who knows? But, there's definitely a lot of anecdotal stuff going on. And, it's one of the things that Jason from OTIA talked about a couple weeks ago. He did say that, historically through the last 20 years with PSA, that they've gone through these points where stuff gets super strict. And then the people that are big subbers will then go and talk to the people at PSA and say, hey, guys, like, this is getting crazy. You need to loosen the reins up. And then all of a sudden, it shifts again. So I did a little bit of research. And by no means is this scientific. But I decided to try and look at some of the gem rate data on gemrate.com. Shout out to Ryan at GemRate for putting all this data together. He didn't personally put it together for us. It's just on the site.
So you didn't share with me specifics, but did you just, I'm just speculating here, did you just look at 2022 card data?
Yes, I looked at the last 6 months of data.
Oh, you can do it chronologically like that. I just figured maybe you did 2022 and assumed they were all submitted recently.
Nope. So you can go to if you go to, so this is what I'm doing. Whether or not this is legit, I have no idea. So this is once again anecdotal. Take it with a grain of salt. What I did was I went to gemrate.com, I went to population data, and I went to set trend over time. And then, so if you look at, so I'm looking at 2020 PSA basketball Panini Prism. And, so you look at how many cards were submitted, what the gem rates are. So from July of 2021 through basically January 2022, there were about 8,000 or 9,000 cards submitted from this set. The gem rate went from 24% to roughly 36%. And then from January to now, the amount of cards that were submitted was about the same as the previous 6 months. However, the gem rate went from basically 37% down to 36%. So gem rate for the 6 months, the last 6 months of 2021, went from 24% to 37%. And then the first 6 months of this year went from 37% down to 36%, meaning they're giving out less 10s. And if you look at some of the other companies, your BGS and your SGC, in that same time period, they're giving out more gems, 9.5, BGS 9.5s or SGC 10s versus PSA, which is going down. And if you look at football, 2020 Prism football, you see the same trend. previous 6 months. The uptick in gem rate is a lot less between July 2021 and January 2022. However, you start to see the gem rate turn in February, March, as far as it was going up, and then it starts to go down, or it's flat, meaning they're giving out less tens.
So a little thing to throw in there, that last 6 months of 2021, PSA wasn't open yet.
Yeah, they were. You're thinking 2020 was when they were closed.
They were open all 2021?
They were open for
level?
They were open the last 6 months of 2021.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I have in my head December, like something changed with their pricing. So I must be off a year.
You are. I mean, they shut down in 2020, but they were the $100 level, the $150 and $100 levels were open last year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what percentage, or try to see what came from backlog versus what came from like $150 or $100 level card. Meaning the backlog, if it was the low dollar submission and people were just sending everything, versus I've looked at it a little more closely because I'm spending $150 or $100.
I think over the last 12 months, it's a mix of stuff. Yeah. It's people that have submitted new stuff as well as backlog. Once again, not scientific, not meant for reposting and as the gospel. It's just, and I'm trying to find any kind of mathematical explanation, and just looking at some of these set populations over time, you can definitely see the gem rates go up, and then they're coming back down over the last like 4 months, 3 months. So whether or not it's legit, I don't know, but this is what the data says in regards to gem rates and how many tens that they're giving out. But once again, take it with a grain of salt.
So do you think with all this spreading around, there's been any less submissions? PSA?
No.
Yeah.
That I can give you that right now as far as how many cards are getting submitted. Items by month over the last March was their biggest month with 987,000 items submitted or graded. And April 826, May 889.
Right. So I'm going to need to see June and July to see if the crackdown is affecting submissions.
Through the first 10 days of June, you have 311,000. Multiply that by 3, which is that's 900K plus.
Yep. All right.
So, I mean, it's not slowing down. And it appears to be Pokemon, basketball, baseball, football are your big 4.
Pokemon number 1?
Pokemon's number 1.
Jeez.
The previous 30 days of the items that were submitted, Pokemon 337,000.
Oh, you sent me that video too. The dude that got like all Pokemon PSA 5s and 4s.
Oh yeah. So there is a popular Pokemon influencer on Instagram, Don Diego, and it's not a guy. It's a girl.
Okay.
The nails, the white pearly fingernails may have given that away, or the voice, but either way.
Mute guy, I had it on mute.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so she recently did a PSA grade reveal and got 0 tens. I think she had 15 cards or something like that. I mean, they were mostly 5, 6s, and 7s. Like, I don't know if there are any 8s or 9s in there, and whether or not she has an eye for grading or whatever. But like, the card has to be really, really good in order for me to be submitting it if it's even close to a 5.
Right.
But once again,
either way, clearly not what she was expecting.
Yeah, no, not at all. And once again, just anecdotally everywhere. Unfortunately, we didn't think about it at the time. We would have asked Nat, about that, but we just didn't. So, however, Bunk did get to ask about his PSA 9.5, so you can stay tuned for that and get Nat's answer on the PSA 9.5.
Nice tease, guy.
All right. Last but not least, before we get into the interview, we get requests every week. People love Slab Wars, so we're gonna probably try to work it in most weeks. I thought that it's time to start talking football again, and so this week's Slab War is Mr. Joe Burrow. We'll be talking the 2020 Donruss Optic Hollow. It's actually interesting to see some of the data on this. The recent high on this card was January 30th, 2022 at $1,124. It has come down by about 50% over that time. Last sale on eBay was $660 PSA 10. BGS 9.5 is $410. SGC 10 is $400. HGA 9.5 $300. And CSG 9.5 $275.
Damn, HGA beat CSG.
Not by much, but yeah, by a little bit.
What's the pop on the 10, the PSA 10?
57.
Wow, yeah, and there's I think there's 45 BGS 9.5s and 42 9, so it's split right down the middle as far as gem right there.
Yeah. I think basically if you're looking, your window to buy football is 4 to 6 weeks, right? Basically, if you're looking to get the best prices you're going to be able to get, especially on non-rookie new products. As I said, the prices on Burrow stuff has dropped by 40-50% since the end of their playoff run, and losing in the Super Bowl. So at least for Burrow, and then everybody else, if you look at some of the other guys, so now would be a time. Training camp starts in 4 or 5 weeks. You have the Hall of Fame game preseason kickoff first week of August. And then football's off and running again. Thank God. So if you're going to buy football and you're looking for deals, now would be the time. Basketball winding down, almost done. And, we're going to hit the lull for the next 4 weeks where it's only baseball that's live and playing.
That's awesome for me.
Ugh, it's the worst time of year.
Oh, it's the best time of year.
Worst time of year, where all there is on SportsCenter is baseball highlights. I don't mind watching baseball highlights. I just, if that's the only thing in season, it just sucks.
Did the Rangers lose today? That's what I really need to have.
I think the game's going on right now.
Oh, all right.
So you can give it a little score check as we're.
I will. I need the hockey Rangers put to bed, and then I can stop worrying about them winning.
And while you're looking that up, I'm going to tease one more thing for next week before we get to the interview. I'm not recording a closing and having to edit that, so we're going to talk for another 30 seconds to a minute here, and then switch over to the interview. We have an end result to the Steph Curry HGA 9.5 saga that we talked about probably a month to 6 weeks ago.
We're talking about me tonight?
No. We're not talking about that tonight. I'm teasing this for next week. We're going to talk about this next week. So for those of you that don't remember or new to the pod, we bought an HGA 2009 Topps HGA 9.5 Steph Curry, and the plan was to crack it and send it to BGS. Let's just say plans changed and went awry in 17 different directions. So we'll tell the whole story on next week's pod. There should be an end result and final sale. But by the time we get on next week's episode, so we'll tell the full story.
We could show my interview with the Hobby Police when I was arrested.
And on that note, once again, if you want to win a free T-shirt, win a free grading spot with ISA Grading, send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com, or comment on this week's social media post on Instagram or Twitter, SportsCardADVTG. You got anything else for the fine folks before we wrap up?
No, thanks to Nat, and enjoy the interview.
Absolutely. Once again, shout out to Nat. Super, super gracious with his time. And we were very appreciative of that.
I
And
started a new set as inspiration from that interview, by the way.
I have started to look for a set as
Ooh.
as inspiration from this.
Wait, what?
Yeah, hell is freezing over.
I don't believe it.
I have started to. So we talked about the set registry. So I jumped in there and I was like looking at guys and players, and there's all kinds of options. So something that I will consider here in the next few weeks, and we'll drop that info on the pod at some point when I decide what set that's going to be and how we're going to go about it.
Nice.
All right. Without further ado, Nat Turner, CEO, Collectors Universe, PSA, is currently sitting on the Mount Rushmore of the future of the hobby. Enjoy. All right. We are back with the one and only Nat Turner. How's everything going today, Nat?
I'm good. How about you guys?
Awesome.
Yeah.
We are very thankful that you decided to join us. I believe I put in my initial DM to you on Instagram. We're the best podcast you've never heard of. So hopefully that got you to join us today. With all of our guests, the first question we always ask is, what is your hobby origin story? What did you collect as a kid? How's that changed over the years? Where obviously you're at a much higher place in life now than you were at 9 years old. So, how's everything evolved?
Yeah, I was a collector at an early age, probably 5 or 6 years old, of baseball cards at the time. My dad gave me a couple vintage baseball cards like Hank Aaron and Nolan Ryan. I was born and kind of raised in Houston mostly, so I was an Astros fan and also Braves because my dad's from Atlanta. So I'd collect, Trot Nixon and Nolan Ryan and David Bell and Biggio and Bagwell and like all those guys, both teams. And yeah, it evolved into basketball cards, probably like 95, 96, probably more like 96. So from like I started collecting probably in like 91. I got some cards 89 and 90 when I was like 4 years old. But I really started taking it more seriously when I got into like second, third, fourth grade. And then, yeah, and I really never stopped. I mean, I maybe took like a 6-month, 1-year break, junior year of high school, right before this was like 2002, when there weren't any good rookies in basketball. And baseball was like steroid era. I kind of was over it for a while. But yeah, that's kind of the origin story.
All right.
Never was into Pokemon or anything.
Yeah, us either.
Us either.
So I'm going to take this opportunity to let the two of you nerd out about sets, because I myself am more flipper investor. Bunk is very similar origin story as you've been collecting since he was a kid, still collects, puts sets together. So Bunk, I'm going to let you hop in and take your opportunity for the first time ever to talk about sets on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, my first question would be, what is your favorite part about the set building? Is it just the thrill of the chase? Is it the completion? What is it that got you into set collecting period? Because I'm sure before you started graded set collecting, you were bindering sets or that sort of thing. What brought you or drew you to that?
Yeah, as a kid, I was mostly player collecting or team collecting, really. I had a few sets. I never really had the tops boxes. The sets were kind of cheating, where you just buy the whole set. I never understood
Agreed.
that.
Hand collated rules.
yeah, it's like, so yeah, I'm glad they don't do that anymore. But I got into set collecting probably mainly insert set collecting. So like, I wanted one of every jambalaya, or not back then, but now. Back then it was like autographics, except the stars, couldn't afford them, but I was like trying to collect as many of those as I could. Oh, I would do like the rookies, so I try to get like one of each rookie every year. Like I remember, I started that in probably '98 when Paul Pierce and Vince Carter were rookies. I had let's see, who did I have? Or no, was that year? No, that was 90. Yeah, that's right. So I had one of each rookie, but it evolved, and I started getting into grading. My first grading submission was to Beckett in '99. It was the Steve Francis finest rookie card, or 2000. It may have been. It was that year, that season. And then I started getting into PSA graded sets in vintage baseball. in 2010, and I gravitated to the sets that I liked from the player sets that I had. So my favorite Hank Aaron card is 75 Tops. So I started the 75 Tops set, and then I did the 75 Tops mini set. My favorite Mantle card is 59 Tops. So I'm doing the 59 Top set. And I love that set, just the different colors. Same with 75, the color variances. But for me, it's the chase. Like completing the set is very like kind of anticlimactic and in many ways sad. You're like, what do I do now? So I really enjoy the set. I tend to pick sets that are really hard because I know they'll take a while. Like most of my sets aren't complete. I don't even think I have that many that are done. It's either high grade or the cards are rare to begin with, or both. Just because it's an extra challenge. I don't know. And also I think it's like a really cool feat, personally, to have an accomplishment of like, hey, it's, like I have a story behind every card in the Precious Metal Gems green set that I'm doing in basketball. Like I remember literally all 117 that I have, there's 122 in the set. Like I could probably tell you exactly how I acquired each of the 117 of them.
Oh, I think last I heard you were missing 6 or 7, so you picked.
Oh no, I got another one.
Okay.
So
nice.
I haven't posted it. It's a really good one too.
So walk us through what that looks like, because obviously you're probably on a different budget than most of the people that listen to this podcast, but you're also trying to acquire things that are much more difficult and more expensive. So are you shopping eBay? Are you using the network of PSA, or like how are you usually acquiring these types of pieces?
Yeah, so I buy things from everywhere, but it's funny. Like I'm not like I buy big cards, but I'm buying like the everything. So like I ran into Rick Probstein at the National last year. He's like, I got to comment, like I send more low end cards to you than anybody else, because I'm buying them on eBay, which is true. Like I'm buying $2, $3 cards on eBay for my sets. Like a good example is the 2002 Finest Gold Refractor set basketball. Like I bought a Michael Finley like 3 days ago for like $4.
Yeah.
And like that needed it for my set. And by the way, there's 50 sets like that I'm doing that are commons or under $10. So no, and but I am collecting like PSA 10 sets from the 60s and 70s that are damn near impossible and very expensive. But it's to each their own. The money is not like I'm not attracted to the value of the card ever. I'm fortunate to be able to afford some of the cards that are, magical to me, like, some of the Mantle stuff and all that, but, and Jordans, but, to me, it's all about what it's either nostalgic or the card, has a particular eye appeal or design value that I appreciate, or find unique.
And the lower end stuff, do you space that out so you can enjoy it longer versus just buying 42 cards all at once, and then you don't get to enjoy it that much longer? So if you're buying,
if they're available, if I need it for the set and it's available, I'll try and get it. I mean, I try not to overpay for stuff that I know is overpriced. Like people like Buy It Nows will list 2002 Finest Gold Refractors for $100 commons. Like I'm not going to reach for those, but if it's fairly priced, I'm going to obtain it. I mean, I'd struggle sometimes like buying big lots of cards. Like a good example is 2012 Panini Gold Prisms. Like I'm doing that set. I started it when they were $50 to $100 for commons, and now they're $1,000 to $2,000 a common. And I bought a lot of 60 of them at one point. Part of me was like, oh, like there goes the chance to acquire 60 cards individually, but for those rare sets, you got to take advantage of buying, whatever 10 to 20% of the set at one time. Like I actually did that with PMG greens. I bought maybe 18 or 20 of them in one transaction from Asia, which was very helpful at the time.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did it.
You never know when it'll come up for sale again,
Yeah,
so you take it while you can get it. I gotcha.
And that's the thing too. I know some of the sets that I have incomplete, it's because I wouldn't pull the trigger on what I believe to have been the highest valued cards. And once I committed to the set, if I would have pulled the trigger on, I'm more of a baseball card collector. So I was doing Bowman refractor sets for years. I'm one card away from the 2001 Topps Traded retrofractor set. And I had a chance of buying the Pujols number 247, back when it was $100. And at the time I was like, I'll get it. Now it's thousands of dollars, but I'll get it one day. But
A good example for me is like, 96 Topps Chrome Refractors PSA 10. Like I had a chance to buy Ray Allen like 5 years ago. There's 2 of them, and like I didn't, and one just sold for like $60,000
yeah, so I always tell people, if you're going to do a set, just grab the big one early. Just do it
early.
and then go from there.
I agree.
While we're still on topic of sets, Bunk, you want to talk some set registry stuff?
Oh yeah, so I've got to say, so my background is I was a Beckett magazine guy. That's all I knew for the longest time. It took me a while to even know what PSA was or come around to it. I've been a criticizer in the past of PSA, and the more I do research and stuff, I've learned a lot more, and I'm coming around. It's not lost on me that a lot of the negatives are anecdotal and small sample size and that sort of thing. But what I love doing was putting BGS set registries together, and the proud owner of the Melky Cabrera #1 set is my claim to fame on BGS. But I've been getting emails from PSA now for, I don't know, a couple months with the top 10 PSA set registry, and that dashboard is awesome. I was spending time on there the other day. So if your goal is to get people in and collecting and submitting because you have the chance of, I put in 2 cards randomly, and I had 25 options of sets I could build off those 2 cards. That thing is awesome. I'm definitely going to use it. It's given me way more ideas, no matter who you want to grade, way more ideas of what to do with it. What was your vision for that set registry, and how much of a hand did you have in that, in the way it's set up currently?
Yeah, honestly, very little. My previous meeting was with the set registry team leader for us. So I spend a lot of time in the set registry because, I mean, that's how I manage my sets and collections for the most part, although not universally. I still have a lot of Beckett sets. Like I wanted one of every LeBron James rookie card, BGS 10.5, for example. But on the PSA side, yeah, I mean, the set registry is a very, I would say, long-standing tool at PSA. I mean, it's been around for well over a decade. It's probably I would say, most important tool for vintage set collectors. I think the modern, there aren't as many set collectors amongst the modern and ultra modern community, unfortunately. So, people nowadays are mainly speculating on players, and that's fine. That is, and we have player sets and all sorts of things that people can build and compete on. But, company sets, as we call them, where you're trying to get a certain year and a certain manufacturer and so on, variation, aren't as popular. But our goal with the registry, and again, this is predating my involvement with the company mostly, is to appeal to the more modern collector as opposed to the vintage collectors who really know, like, the reason they're collecting is set collecting. We have a lot of people who are card collectors who don't realize that set collecting, or they haven't gotten the bug for set collecting. And it's actually, like I was routine just before, I mean, it's an amazing part of the hobby. It's probably the thing I enjoy the most is set collecting. And so trying to appeal to folks that are actively grading cards, actively purchasing cards, maybe not with the intent of building sets. The whole point of that dashboard and the set registry new features we're launching are really trying to widen the community, of set collectors. It's going to be hard. I mean, like I said, there's just not that many of set collectors in the new generation of card collectors.
Yeah. That interface and the way it's set up made me, even as a long-term collector, be more excited about building another. And I'm already a set collector, and it was blown away by it because I've been meaning to go to the top 10 for a while. I'm like, let me do this showcase. And finally, I got in there. I'm like, oh, this is not how it was the last time I came to the set registry on PSA. So
we've got a lot of stuff coming. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming around community and being able to message each other. Like, it's actually funny. The other day, I was in the 96 Topps Chrome Refractor set. Like, someone was like shit talking me in the mat. It was awesome. He was like, he's #1 and I'm #2.
That's awesome. Like,
good to see you're back at #2, or like, it made me be like, well, I'm gonna actually try now and try and unseat this guy as #1, and which is the whole point of the set registry. It's like you want to be the best in a particular set, and I got that same sort of adrenaline when I saw his message last week. So.
And for those of us, myself included, who may be less familiar with this, can you just give a little bit of information as far as what the set registry is and, how it's used, as far as, like, you made a reference to this, your #2 versus #1. Like, how does all this work? And just give a little bit of background on it.
Yeah, so basically PSAcard.com, you have what's called inventory, and it's a database of all the slabs, PSA slabs that you own, and you type them in, or you can scan QR codes and add them to your inventory. And that's use case number one. You can add, how much you paid for things. You can see pictures of the cards. We're taking images of most of the cards we're grading these days. Soon to be, hopefully by the end of the year, all of them. So that's use case number one. Use case number two is the set registry, which pulls from your inventory. And basically, our team has created, in partnership with the card manufacturers and other collectors, various sets. Things like, hey, here's a checklist, and we create a set off that checklist for 75 tops. There's a set for every tops set from 51 through modern day. And you could go in there and you say, okay, I want to start this set. Let's just say, 79 tops. And you say add best available, and it will automatically pull in every 79 tops card you have in your inventory and add it to that set, and it'll check them off for you, just like you would as a kid with a checklist, and say, I have number 418. And it gives you all the stats. You have this percentage of the set completed. This is your average grade. There's points that you get based on the grade. So, for example, a PSA 10 Jordan from 86 Fleer is worth more points than a common. Every set has different weightings for each player. Stars are worth more, and so on. And there's a gamification element to it where, each set you're competing in a list. So you go, in 52 tops, for example, there are hundreds of active sets that people have created, and you're ranked. So there's a number one set through number 254 or whatever it is. And each of you get points, and you're competing to rise up the rankings. And we actually have I just was talking about in my last meeting, we give out awards each year to the most accomplished sets and collectors. There's different awards you can get. We actually at the National have a set registry awards dinner, and you get physical awards, and you actually get recognition on your profile on psacard.com. It's a very important part of collecting. The 52 top set, for example, there are sets on there that are infamous. Like they're just probably will never be beaten, kind of like Ted Williams' record or DiMaggio. You can't even imagine completing some of these sets.
And this is all it's all based on what you've actually had graded, and it's recorded, so it's real. Yeah, so it's real. So you can't just, hey, these are 5 cards that I own, but you don't actually own them. It's all based on legitimate verification.
Have verified ownership of the cards. Yeah, and people can request to remove. Like if I buy a card that someone has registered in their set, they'll get a notice. Like when I registered in my inventory, they'll get a notice, and they have to actually release that card from their inventory and their sets, and then it gets put in my account. And PSA, we have a whole team actually of folks. If she's listening, Cassetta Robbins is awesome. She's one of the people on the team who will actually interface with the collectors and say, okay, send us a picture of the card. In the near future, we're going to have NSC chips in the cards where you can just hold your phone up to the card and it'll verify possession.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a system of record really for ownership, with a set building, gain really built on top of it.
And is there any plan, now that obviously NFTs are everywhere, any plan to integrate this into blockchain technology at some point?
Probably, yeah. We're definitely looking into it, and we kind of maintain our own blockchain today with ownership. It's not great. It works, but it's not the most scalable of technologies. But yeah, it's perfect for blockchain. We have other fish to fry at the moment, but I'm sure it will at some point.
All right.
I'm sure Jeff may be getting into it later, and this may be jumping the gun, but I think it's important now. You've always said maybe getting back to a lower price point for submitting was to the benefit of, because everyone should have every card they want graded, especially if you're completing lower end sets of that nature. Whereas, and I was guilty of it too. I was thinking, well, there's no way they're going to do that because of the backlog, blah, 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 blah. And I totally didn't even think of, what about all the graded sets that people want to complete?
Yeah.
And so is that part of the vision of getting back to a lower price point, is to appeal to that lower end collector?
Yeah. Look, I have thousands of cards piling up in my apartment that I'm not going to spend more than $15 or whatever grading, like those cards I just mentioned. So, it's a big problem. I think that's the biggest problem the set registry has right now, is that, fresh raw cards that people have acquired that are 4 sets are just piling up because they can't afford it. It doesn't make sense. They can afford it maybe, but it doesn't make sense to spend the current service level fees on those cards. So,
Right.
in 2 days, today's Tuesday, on Thursday, the 9th, we're announcing values reopening. We already announced it, but it's going to officially reopen on the website at $30. That's still too expensive for a lot of the set collectors. Our intention is to lower that pretty aggressively over the next year.
So what's the plan for that, as far as like how do we avoid somebody literally buying a box of 2021 Prism and it's $8 a card, so they just send the whole damn thing in and hope for the best, and then you guys get swamped again? Because set collecting, I understand, but there's greedy flippers everywhere too. So where's the how do we mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, price is the way today. So like that's why we're starting at 30, is that'll price out those folks for now. I mean, look, if someone wants to grade those cards, we're not going to stop them. We're not in the business of telling people what they can and can't grade. But the only real mechanism we have right now is price to dictate it. We were doing these events, for economy, where every Tuesday and Thursday we'd give out 10,000 slots. That works great. We don't feel like we need to, because we're actually going to be fully done with the backlog here in a few weeks. So we're going to have it more wide open, but just at a price that we think will drive the right amount of cards. But in the future, we're going to do things like, hey, if you have an active set and you're a Collectors Club member, you can access a lower price point, for submitting cards for your sets.
So there will be a caveat.
Yeah, well, we're not going to launch that in 2 days. That's a technically hard thing to do, because you have to prove a number of things that people, like for example, you can submit cards that you need for sets. But our intention is to lower price specifically for set collectors.
Okay.
Awesome.
I don't know if it'll be a blanket lower price, or like I said, a tailored one to Collectors Club members and set collectors. But our intention is to do that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not a set guy, but I think that's a fantastic idea. I don't want to see it go back to $8 a card and you can submit everything under the sun, just because I think it puts
we're not
us
going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, it puts us in a position where, I don't know, graded cards lose their value, in my opinion, anyway. Especially, but I guess the way Panini's printing these days, 10s are going to be harder to come by anyway. So, we'll see.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if it's our problem or the manufacturers. I mean, we grade the cards that are sent to us.
Yeah.
If we can't really help it if there's 100,000 Luka Doncic based Prisms that are printed and half of them are 10s, and therefore there's an overproduction issue brewing in Cardland.
Well, I guess we'll take that as an entry.
Well, there's less competition.
Take that as an entry to open the door for the Fanatics conversation. What are your feelings as far as, Fanatics already has tops. There's rumblings of them grabbing Panini at some point. What is your thoughts on one company controlling most of the cards that are put out into the world?
Yeah, look, I'm an optimistic guy. I think change is a good thing generally. I've been pretty vocal at the card companies in the last year or two, maybe unfairly, probably, but most likely unfairly. But look, as a hardcore collector, like, I don't love opening a box of Prism and getting like a bunch of veterans that retired 30 years ago and 33 different parallels that I have no idea how rare there are. And then, I can go on, and then jersey patches that aren't from worn games, sticker autos, redemption cards that they don't redeem. I mean, the shenanigans are very lengthy. And we all have, everyone can point fingers at all the companies in Cardland, but, it's been really frustrating to kind of, as a collector, I'm not with my PSA hat on, living through that. And then the prices keep going up for cards and you're getting less and less from the boxes and seeing the pop report. So Fanatics, though, I feel like they're going to be good stewards. Obviously it's a wait and see with anything. I think people should have that same approach with PSA 2 with reopening and pricing and everything. But
unfortunately, as well as I do, Twitter is an angry group of people. So, they're not waiting and seeing for anything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, put too much, value in anonymous, people hiding behind profiles on Twitter. But, as a collector, I'm optimistic because I think change is necessary. Change is needed in card manufacturing. I like to think they're going to do a better job. I'm excited for things like Topps Chrome NBA. I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come from this. But I think, overproduction, overcomplicating the checklists and expanding checklists, and the current issues. I really hope they have card people involved who understand those issues and realize that, hey, this, at the end of the day, this is just a board, and like we're us collectors, like, we value these things for reasons that not many people can understand, and that goodwill only goes so far, and if you mess with that, the whole thing can come crashing down like it did in the 80s. So
Yeah, give us some innovation, some new creativity, some different. All it is recycled every 10 years. Okay, here we go. 2022 Topps Pristine's coming out because it's now 10 years, 20 years ago since they released. Give me something new.
or just take it more seriously, like don't use the same photos of players across sets.
All the time.
Crazy.
So with Fanatics coming in and the potential of reinvigorating products, if you could bring one product back that's been discontinued, what would that be?
Well, for me, it'd probably be sets that are not currently produced in basketball being produced in basketball. So Topps Chrome and Finest would probably be my top two, and Metal. Those three. I mean, look, I'm one of the old guys now. Funny, I'm like back in my day. I do think that we did get a lot of things right in the '90s and the 2000s before the Panini takeover in '09 and Topps. When it's not just Panini or Topps thing, but like when the leagues went with one company each, I feel like that wasn't a good thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like pre '09 we should bring back a lot of those ideas, like pack insert odds, like actual game worn material that had value, non-sticker autos, all those kind of started in '03. But like that kind of stuff we need to bring back. But like for me, it'd probably be Topps Chrome basketball.
Okay, and I mean, I believe they've already either Luber or Michael Rubin has said that those are going to make a comeback at some point. So that hopefully,
of course they will. I mean, they have the basketball license and they own Topps. Yeah, they'd be silly not to.
So we had an interesting conversation with Jason Kuntz a couple weeks ago on the pod. We asked him a question. You're given a blank check and you can buy one card in one box after 1980. And the card
you buy one box.
You can buy one card in one box after 1980. Blank check, and it's for PC. It's not for investment or anything else. He mentioned a card. He said it's either 1997 or 1998 Ultra Basketball. First year they did a 1-of-1 Michael Jordan, and Nat may have that card. So I said,
I do not. I know who has it, though.
Wait, did you say you know who has it?
Of course, yeah.
Well, you can text.
No, it's not me.
You can text Jason and let him know that you know who has it, because that was his blank check card.
That's interesting. Yeah, that wouldn't be mine. Mine would be row 3 Flair Masterpiece from '97 Jordan, because I have the other 3, row 0, 1, 2. But yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I'd probably pick the 03. No, the card I'd pick is the 03 Ultimate Logo Man LeBron. Or the Essential Credentials Future 1-of-1 LeBron from 03.
Okay.
Those would be mine. But the Flair 03 and the Ultra are really good ones too, for sure. Oh, and Metal Gym Masters 98 1-of-1 Jordan. Yeah, I've got like 5 or 6.
I mean, it is a blank check, so keep going.
Yeah. I'd probably pick those 5 or 6. Steph Curry Superfractor would be up there. 09.
Yeah, surprisingly, one of the Logo Man Stephs went for pretty cheap, not cheap, but cheap for that card the other day through Golden. I don't know if you saw that. It was.
Yeah. No, I saw. I held the card. I mean, it was a sticker auto, and it was from a set no one probably knew about, which was Panini Absolute. So I think that probably held the card back.
Yeah.
But.
So let me see.
A box. Sorry, I would go the Exquisite, obviously.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus for that. So as far as your PC is concerned, sets and individual cards, we'll say stuck on a deserted island, you can take 3 sets, 3 cards with you. Which ones are going?
Ooh, PMG green and red for sure. Basketball 97, and then another set would probably be 59 Topps baseball.
Okay, and then 3 individual cards out of the PC.
Dual Logo Man, Jordan LeBron, Exquisite 03, Hank Aaron, PSA 10, 54 tops, Jordan 97, game jersey auto out of 23, blue patch.
Awesome. Yeah, those are, yeah, that'd work.
It would take me an hour to come up with my top 3, so that's impressive. Boom, 3. Let's go.
We're going to shift gears a little bit here, talk a little bit more about PSA. We do talk a bunch about PSA and grading on our podcast. We do a segment called Slab Wars where we compare PSA to BGS to SGC, HGA, CSG. When submitting to grading, a lot of people think in their head it's a 10, and then it comes back an 8. So what do you think is most of what people miss as far as what are they missing when they're evaluating the condition of a card before they submit it?
Yeah. First of all, yeah, I mean, I see this all the time, Twitter, Instagram, a lot of emails, DMs. I personally experience it myself. I pull cards and, I think they're 9s or 10s and they're 7s or 8s. The biggest one that I see personally is surface issues. When I sit with the grading team and we're going through technology we're implementing or, card reviews or things like that, almost always it's either creases you can't see or surface imperfection. So it's like someone took their fingernail and dug into the card. There's like a little oval, half oval, semicircle indention or their dimples. It's almost always surface. People look at centering probably the most, certainly on bordered cards, and then corners. And they really, and I'm guilty of this too, like you really need to look at that card in dark rooms with a specific lighting where you're tilting the card at every angle possible for front and back. If it has a surface indentation on the back, it's the same as if it's on the front. And people won't look at the surface on the back. In ultra modern cards, thick cards, I mean, there's basically 8 corners. So you see a lot of and the one touches that they're distributed in, like Flawless and National Treasures, can actually hurt the cards too. So you see a lot of card splitting or compression where the corners have been bent or rounded down. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. And people are like, hey, I pulled this out of a pack. How is this a 6? And we do bump, I handle a lot of these where people are like, hey, will you please look at this? I'm like, sure. Like, send it to me. I'll run it by the grading team. I would say 97 out of 100 times the grade stays the same. And the customer's like, oh shit, I didn't see that, part of my language. But, every now and then we got it wrong. And we're willing to admit it. We'll say, yeah, it's an 8.5 instead of an 8, or it's a 9.78. But more often than not, it's the surface.
That leads me to my next question. We had 2 cards that we personally submitted recently. And when we review cards, we have the light and we have a scope, and we reviewed everything under magnification and the whole 9 yards. And Bunk's like, there's no way that this is not a 10, and both came back 9. So what recourse does somebody have to get something re-reviewed? Do they have any? Number one, and number two, is it advised to send it back in graded or open it and resubmit it?
Yeah, I would always suggest sending it back in still in the slab, because a non-professional opening cracking slabs just is risky. Look, if you can do it perfectly and not risk the card getting damaged, then by all means. But I'm terrified of people cracking slabs at home. I mean, I've damaged cards myself doing that in years past.
So have we.
Yeah, so that's that. No, you have recourse. So that we have an official service called Review. It's on the website. It's pretty cheap, actually. It's really just covering handling. We'll regrade it in the slab. Has to be slabbed. And like I said, some percentage of the time we absolutely will bump cards that we undergraded. You can also reach out to me. What's up?
Do you provide any feedback on the review as to why it got what it got, or why you kept it the same?
Yeah, most of the time, if it's, if you send us 1,000, which people do, 1,000 PSA 9 Pokemon cards, we're not going to write up a report on each one. If it's a $100 card or above, there's going to be a sticky note on the slab with an arrow pointing to, hey, there's a dimple here. I was going to say, every day people reach out to me, and you can also do that or reach out to anyone on social and PSA, and we'll point you to the place on the website. And, if you're a nice person, you're not like yelling at me, I'll be like, hey, like, email me and I'll, send it to my attention, or, and I'll run it by the grading team as well. We're very open to that. I mean, like I said, we get it wrong. At the end of the day, these are opinions.
Humans.
We're grading 50,000 cards a day. I would say we're more often than not highly accurate, but occasionally it's a 9 instead of an 8, and we said it was an 8.
So
we're willing to admit our mistakes. So.
Can you walk us through a little bit as far as the grading process? Because sometimes people are, we talk on the online chatters. Well, you could get somebody who's having a bad day, but is it reviewed by another person to verify that person having a bad day is right?
No, it's every card is looked at by multiple people. It doesn't matter if it's a $10 card or $1 million card. Every card is verified by someone else.
Okay.
At a minimum once, like meaning an additional person. At certain service levels, it can be 3 to 5 people are looking at one card.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then, so over the last few weeks, months, whatever it is, trimming has definitely hit the news and the scandals and everything else. There are certain services out there that advocate cleaning, filling scratches, removing fuzzies, fixing corners, stuff like that. Do you consider that card alteration and a no-no? Or as long as you're not trimming or altering the actual size of the card, is that okay before sending in? Just your opinion, not necessarily PSA's stance on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you'd have to really ask our head grader or Kevin who runs PSA, but my personal opinion is you wipe a fingerprint off a card, that's fine. If you add something to a card or take something away from the card stock, it's a complete no-no. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, and I believe that person, like I've seen some of the accounts for like cleaning services, and I'm a little surprised that are confused as to how you can, improve an edge or a corner or remove scratches without altering the card, by our definition at PSA. So truthfully, I mean, we're very aware of those. We're watching them. We have accounts we're monitoring of people submitting. Things do get past. Trimming, by the way, is hard to catch. People think every card is the same size coming out of Panini. They're not.
Yeah.
So you can, we look for natural edges. We know what edges look like. Our grading team knows what a 59 tops edge looks like compared to 60. I mean, they're different. So, we can detect it more often than not, but it does, like we saw the playoff contenders, probably football, like that stuff got past us for sure. Like there were 20 to 30 cards that we definitely missed. We're buying them back, if we can tell in a second review that, in fact, it's trimmed. Someone posting on a blowout saying it's trimmed isn't enough for us. We have to look at it and see. And again, we missed them. So, but again, we catch so much of that. I mean, we're failing thousands of cards, a week. Probably not a week, actually. Probably, well, maybe close. Hundreds for sure a week, for alterations. But yeah, I believe, if you're removing stock or adding stock, it's an issue. Removing and, adding anything to it, like paint to, touch up a black corner, white to, whiten borders, or remove, a discoloration, like that's alterations.
Yeah. Okay. Bunk, I will defer to you as far as our next question here. I know this is a long time question that you've had.
Yeah. Why is there no PSA 9.5? Like we can go into further detail. You can ask me questions. But I need to know why there can be an 8.5 but no 9.5.
Yeah,
now, I have my reasons why it is, and I think it's genius that you don't have a 9.5. But I'd like to know why you don't have a 9.5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a great answer for you other than PSA's grading standard is a very long-standing scale, well understood. They implemented half grades well before I got there, which I agree with. Half grades. Why they didn't do one between 9 and 10, actually, I don't know the exact answer. As a collector, I like that it makes 10s more desirable because, there's a bigger jump. There should be, for a perfect card. But yeah, the truth is, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't here when they did that, so I'm sorry to disappoint you. I will say, one thing we have thought about is, people want something better than a 10, a major reason why we couldn't do 9.5 is probably a victim of our success and number of cards we've created. Like it would.
Your submissions would triple because every 9 on the planet would get cracked. That's why. I mean, that's one of the reasons.
Well, what I was going to say is if you do that, then a lot of 10s probably would, from the old, drop down.
Could also go back.
Yeah.
This gets really confusing, But my point is we are definitely considering something better than a 10. We're nowhere near, probably years away from doing it. But look, not every 10 is created equal. And I don't think the answer is go down to 9.5. I think the answer is potentially something above 10.
Similar to Black Label or the SGC Gold or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's not something I've talked about it before, I've hinted at it before. I wish I could tell you, it's something we're doing. We're definitely not doing it anytime soon. It's not something we've agreed to do or decided to do. But if we were to do something, I have a feeling it would be that as opposed to your question. So.
Right. Yeah. I just look at it from the standpoint of, the BGS 9.5 and the PSA 10 both say gem mint on it. The psychology of, well, that card has a 10 on it. So to me, I think a lot of people say, oh, that's more valuable. You see the 10, you want the 10, you don't want the 9.5. So I think that's some of the reasoning behind some of the PSA market share in terms of how valuable the resale value is. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's what most people care about. I'm one of the few people that like the condition of the card in there and and want to trust it. And that's not that I don't trust the PSA graded card. I just think that the 9, you got all these companies with the 9.5s, and then there's none on your side. So I think it just confuses me or confuses some other people.
I think it's 9.5 gem mint, right? And then SGC, it's mint plus. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it mint plus, right?
Yeah. So SGC's in between us, I would say, right? I don't know. Like I said, we have a 35-year history or whatever, 30-year history of doing it on a 9 to 10 jump. It's going to take a lot to have us change that because we have, 50 million cards we've graded.
Yeah.
Listen, no one's calling for it.
Yeah, except
no
you.
one's calling for it. I don't expect it to happen. I was just curious as I thought there was some market behind.
No, you're not the only one though. We get asked that every week. But no, I don't know the exact answer.
All right.
Sorry.
So want to change gears a little bit, talk a little bit of Card Ladder. Obviously you guys acquired them. We're huge supporters of Card Ladder. We use it every day. Is there any plan to evolve that into something bigger, greater, or just plan on adding as many cards as possible? Or, is it something that you're going to get into some predictive chart analysis similar to the you see in stock market type stuff, analysis tools? Yeah. What's the game plan for them?
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much for them because they're running somewhat independently. Chris and Christina and Josh are fully empowered to do what they think is right for Card Ladder. We are going to be integrating Card Ladder very tightly into things like the set registry, PSA card inventory for pricing mainly, but also other things like sales history and stuff like that. Part of Collectors Club probably, which is our subscription service, annual kind of fan club. So we're letting them do their thing. They have a very cool roadmap in terms of predicting card prices.
Okay.
We have a vault launching this summer at Collectors, which will be kind of the official vault of PSA. Card Ladder pricing will flow into that. So you can see your collection value. So even if you don't have things loaded in Card Ladder, if they're anywhere in the Collectors ecosystem, PSA ecosystem, you'll be able to see kind of your collections value, and that'll be, mostly powered by Card Ladder, but also layering on some prediction that we've been building. And other things too. I don't want to steal their thunder, but we've got some exciting stuff coming from Card Ladder for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, my background is in financial trading, so and technical analysis tools have always been my thing. So the more we can get for cards, the better. And as far as that's concerned, I personally like that tool the best. So the more bells and whistles you want to throw at me, I'm excited.
Yeah, the big thing there is the coverage. They have a lot of cards, but when you overlap it with the set registry, it's pretty small, overlap. So we've got a long way to go to, I would say, more scalably add cards that Card Ladder covers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess a question that has hit social media today is the LeBron triple logo man, and people are commenting about the authentication slab that's on it and whether or not it was sent or submitted or brought in to be just authenticated or graded, and it didn't hit a certain grade, so they just slapped the authentic slab on it. When a card that big comes through, what kind of different processes are taken, and then with this specific card, was it submitted for grading and it just got the authentic because it didn't meet the grade that they wanted, or is that what was the authentication just the intention?
Yeah, I mean, I probably can't say exactly. I mean, that'd be kind of customer confidential information as to what they submitted. But that at that level, which is the highest service level we have, that's reviewed by our head grader, and I think probably at minimum 3 other graders. I actually saw the card. I happened to be in the office that week as well when the card came in raw in the PSA or in the Panini One Touch with sticker over it. The card came in to be slab no matter what. Is what I can say.
Okay.
Did it arrive in an armored truck?
The security guard brought it. Yeah, it was actually really cool. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't in the building when it showed up. I was in the building once it was there, but there was a security guard who didn't let it out of his sight for the whole time.
Wow. Okay.
I mean,
definitely winning the grading, but
they're anticipating 5 million plus on that, so I would feel the same way. So we're coming towards the end of the hour here. We have 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap up, and we won't give you too much time back, but. If you could change one thing about the hobby, what would it be?
I mean, on the plus side, I would say, more set collect. We've talked about this. More set collecting out of the new generation. It's more fun. I'm very biased, but I think it is. Less like financial speculation, more pure collecting. Is probably the biggest thing. I would also say, on the card manufacturing side, less production, more, true manufacturing artists and, artisanal like approach to it, more pride in what you're putting out there.
Absolutely.
Those are probably my 2 big ones.
Okay.
And cheaper grading services, honestly. I mean, look, it's our number 1 issue is accessibility. So we need to get cheaper.
Well, you guys are planning on expanding globally, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, both globally and domestically. I mean, we've got a big new office in Jersey City under construction. We've got multiple offices outside the U.S. planned, Japan being the biggest.
Yeah, we grew up 15 minutes from that Jersey City facility. So to hear that hit the news, it was pretty cool. So what's the main benefit of that office for you in terms of distribution or submissions, or what goes on there? Everything that goes on at the other one?
Yeah, it's the first time ever we'll grade cards outside of California. The plan is to tap into a deep, new talent pool. I mean, I don't want to say we've tapped out Orange County for talent, but it's getting harder and harder to hire, especially on the grading team, new team members and train them. So I think Jersey City with the metro area, tri-state area is an awesome, talent market, sports market. Being able to access that talent pool is priority number 1. I think this is not the reason, but we are seeing a lot of benefit. There's a large number of collectors and dealers who, they don't love going to the FedEx and shipping to California. I think having an East Coast headquarters, if you will, for submissions and pickup will be valuable too.
So basically, if you live in certain states, you send to Jersey. If you live in other states, you send to California. Is that the gist?
No, the way it'll work is the shipping labels will just auto generate. So you're not going to get to pick where you ship, but you could drop off, in Jersey. We may bring the card to California. You don't have to worry about that, but we'll internally ship that card to California if the experts for that particular card happen to be there. We'll handle that behind the scenes, but no, really the benefit is the drop off and pickup.
Yeah, I mean, it took me 40 years to get the stones up to send cards in the mail to get graded, to know that if they were only going to go X number of miles as opposed to cross country, for example, I probably would have done it sooner.
Well, we have a lot of people drop off and pick up in California. I mean, every day, dozens for sure. I mean, and I had a horrible. I mean, this 10 years ago. I was sending to Beckett, a FedEx employee jacked my my Playmaker Theater Jordan card and 2 rare LeBron cards, probably $25,000 worth of cards at the time. So I fully commiserate with folks who don't want sent shipping, and I totally get it.
All right, last question to wrap us up. I guess where do you see the hobby in 5 to 10 years? Obviously we had this huge boom, and now we're in a bit of a lull. So where do you see this going in 5 to 10 years? Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how insightful this will be, but I mean, I definitely think we're going to have a year or two period of cooling. Of still much bigger than pre-COVID, but a reset, if you will. A little calming down period. Whatever you want to call it, in the near term, next couple of years. I think in 5 years, I mean, I'm very optimistic. I think you're seeing a lot of young kids and people at these shows, and with hopefully Fanatics doing good things. We'll see a new generation that's larger. Hopefully, more true collectors. But I think back to physical. More shows, more local card shops. I do believe we're going to see. The breaking stuff is really interesting to me. Like, there's so much of that. Basically like remote pack opening for someone.
Yeah.
I do believe that people are going to appreciate more and more the physical nature of cards. I think COVID was a really kind of it's the reason breaking took off, in my opinion. Like, you couldn't go to shops. You kind of had to break to scratch your itch. But I do just look at the National last year. I mean, it's like out of control. Awesome. I think you're going to see that around the country, around the world over the next 5 years, get back to kind of the glory days of card collecting, where it's, trading in person. It's, it's the community aspect of it more than just the like adrenaline rush of, a lotto ticket you're opening on your mobile phone.
Yeah, there's definitely a young core group of guys on Instagram that are out there hustling at shows every weekend and posting all of it and talking through it. So yeah, I think I definitely agree. And I personally think at some point the government will get involved with the regulation of breaking and bring it somehow in-house or to casinos or something where they get their piece and get their hand on it.
It deserves to be in casinos. I mean, it's the same damn thing.
Yeah. We talked about it, and me coming from financial trading, licensed trader, etc. I've experienced what it's like to deal with the government and trading products, and I'm surprised that they haven't come in yet. And but I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, that might not be the worst thing. I mean, I don't think people are getting ripped off all the time. I mean, there's obviously examples of it, but I think it's just it's a different. I mean, look, it's good for the hobby. I mean, it's driving interest. It's it's certainly a positive overall. But yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean, if you told me 20 years ago someone else would be opening a pack for me, and I'd be watching it from 500 miles away, I'd say you were crazy. But
your name jumping around the randomizer.
yeah.
Terrible.
And then them hiding the Trevor Lawrence card they pulled.
Well, on that note, Bunk, unless you have any other questions, I think we're wrapped up.
No, Nat, appreciate the time and the conversation.
Yeah, thank you guys.